What's going on, Dan K Show fans? Another week and another chance to be atop the Dan K Show's Power Rankings. It's Power Rankings week. We're in that bi-weekly. Is that what it is? Bi-monthly? No, it's bi-weekly, I think.
Bi-weekly.
It's every... you don't get to talk yet. You don't get to talk yet. We don't talk until we're introduced in to this show. Did you go on a trip to the land of Hershey's chocolates without me this past weekend? Yes. Did you go see my close personal friends, the wonderful Boudreaux family, this weekend and not wish them my best? Correct. And now are you wearing a really cool polo that I didn't get access to? So I'm stuck here wearing my medium long sleeve black tee again in this chair, feeling uncomfortable? Of course, welcome in my right-hand man, my consigliere, Mon Frere from Another Mayor, who can talk now. It's bi-weekly.
It is bi-weekly, and I did see, of course, your close personal friend, Crystal Boudreaux, had reached out to me asking for some help with their broadcast. Happy to oblige and go help a team out when we can. Yeah, and you know who else did run into the Best family, and not just the immediate family that you and I had met at Nationals. I felt like maybe the entirety of the Best family all in one place. They are great. They are so much fun. Got to talking with them a little bit. Teams looked good. They had a little bit of a home-and-home, Hershey and Wilkes-Barre, two teams that maybe we talk about.
And Lucas, you met the Best family, right? And I'm sure you met the best of the Best family. But what we're doing here today, ready for this transition? We're talking about the best of the best, Lucas, not the best of the best, which you met this weekend. Best of the best, Power Rankings
Smooth.
week. Elite
So
Power Rankings. Let's start now, Lucas. Let's start at number 10. This team dropped outside the top 10 last month. They're back in it. This is my number one team in the Midwest. The Metro Jets Elite, the Spiridonacos Twins, continue to confound opponents.
I think for the Metro Jets Elite team right now, you're seeing kind of a mixed bag in terms of wins and losses, 6-4 in their last 10, but an extremely positive goal differential. They're scoring a lot. Right? And they're not giving up a ton of goals, which I think will help them down that playoff stretch potentially for that Nationals run. I just think for Metro, they want that consistency, and I think that would have put them a little bit higher than 10 if they had gotten it this month.
This is a Metro team that I think right now you will see come Nationals time, one of those 10 teams punching their ticket to Utica, New York to play in the USPHL National Championships. At number 9, Lucas, a team that would like to also join them there, at first place in their division, the PAL Junior Islanders. Lucas, the big story, PAL back into the top 10. The Rockets Hockey Club for the first time in 5 seasons in the Elite outside the top 10 in the Power Rankings.
Well, I think for the Rockets, they've got some injury issues, right? They're waiting to get back to a full roster. They've struggled a little bit the last 10 games and this month, but I think for PAL, they have a more positive last 10 games, 6-3-1-0 in their last 10. Split series against CJR, split series against Wilkes-Barre, split series against the Rockets. Maybe the one differentiator is that they did take a point in an overtime loss against Wilkes-Barre, but for PAL, there's no denying they're on top of that division. They got a good goal differential. They've been playing good hockey lately.
Yeah, Morrissey is one of the best in the game. Justin Morrissey, 70 points right now in the Premier. He's dominating for this side along with Lucas Lewin. Christopher Lucente, a netminder with a 9.26, a 2.72, 2 shutouts on the season. When PAL gets the goaltending at this elite level, they are an absolute puzzle to try to solve. Another team that's been a puzzle to solve where they should be in the rankings this whole season, Lucas, at number 8, the Florida Eels. Talk about this Eels side. They 1 week they look like a world beater. 1 week they're struggling a bit. Which Eels team are we getting this year?
Hey, I'm not really sure. I mean, there's the Eels team that can put together 4 straight wins. The Eels team that can go 7-2-1-0 in their last 10. And then sometimes you get an Eels team that just can't seem to find the way to get the puck in the back of the net. But I think for the Florida Eels, if they can play consistent hockey like they have been, this is a team that will be moving up.
Yeah, Finn O'Neill, Zane Haddon-Harris, Alex Cochran, the top scorers, top point getters on this side are all stellar players. It's about depth and scoring come playoff time. I think the Eels can get that. Will they get enough in net out of Nate Haas and Anthony Lacroix? That is the big conversation. That's the big answer to be found there. At number 7, a team that won in overtime against this Eels team, a team in second place in their division, Ahead of the first place team in PAL, it's the Wilkes Wagon, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights, Lucas. They made a run to the national championship game last season as a 2 overall in these power rankings at number 7 here in February.
This is another one where you're not quite sure which version of Wilkes-Barre sometimes you get, right? 4 straight wins for this squad, 7-2-0-1 in their last 10. Split series against PAL, lost to the Tampa Bay Juniors, lost to Florida Junior Blades, but some good wins against the folks in the Atlantic and up north. So I think for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights, it's just a matter of focusing on good, disciplined, defensively dominant hockey.
Yeah, and a team that has been doing all of that, Lucas, continuing to climb through the standings. The Atlanta Mad Hatters, Colby Sims leading the way with 37 points. This Atlanta Mad Hatters team in 6th in our power rankings. They just keep getting closer and closer to the top. And the biggest story, Lucas, net minding in Atlanta right now. Jackson Bernier, 1.62 goals against, a 9.51 saves percentage. Christian Amato, 1.91 goals against, a 9.33 saves percentage. These are 2 of the best netminders in the country playing for the Mad Hatters.
It feels like somewhere along the season, the Mad Hatters walked through a tiny hidden door and found themselves one of the best teams in the USPHL Elite. I mean, 8-1-1-0 in their last 10 games. A couple of losses to their name, an overtime loss against the Junior Canes, Florida Blades, Hitmen, but I'm seeing more wins than L's on the card. I'm seeing a goal differential that is at a plus 66 right now. This is a Mad Hatters team that seemingly can't be stopped.
Yeah, and just 3 games left for the Mad Hatters, and they will be important ones, all 3 against the Tampa Bay Juniors. The Juniors 5 points ahead of them in the standings. So you got to win every game in this series to try to get the 1 seed, and then Tampa can't win again. Tampa's magic number 2. 2 points in any direction. 2 for them, 2 lost by Atlanta at any point. That will get them into the postseason. That'll be a fun last series to watch. And Atlanta against Florida, Lucas. The Eels at 8, Atlanta at 6 right now. The power rankings would tell you Atlanta is going to be the team to advance out of that series. That'll be an interesting one to watch, 2v3, Atlanta versus Florida. We go to number 5, Lucas. This team in 3rd place in the Elite Southeast Division right now, the Charlotte Rush at 26-8-2-1. 55 points, Lucas. It would be enough to be in 1st place in the New England Division. It would be enough to be in 1st place right now in the Midwest Division. It'd be enough to be in 2nd place right now in the Florida Division. Enough to be in 1st place in the Atlantic Division. It's good enough for 3rd in this difficult Southeast.
Southeast is difficult, right? We know that from season after season after season. 8-1, 1-0 in their last 10. Dominant in the goals for category. Pretty dominant in the defensive end. Only losses to Potomac. They're going to overtime a lot, which is something that, no team wants to really have to do. Overtimes, shootouts, even if you come out on the winning side, as Charlotte has so far this month, you just don't want to get caught up in a game like that. Those become coin flips very quickly.
Yeah, Chucky 3 Sticks, man. 45 points on the year for him. Satsoulis, Spencer Barrow. This team's got depth in it. The big question, we've continued to talk about it all season long, will they get the net minding when it matters? That's what they need. That's kind of that calling card. It's easier said than done to be a netminder in this Southeast Division right now. Teams like Potomac, Carolina, Hampton, Columbia that all can score the goals in bunches. Tough to be a netminder in the Southeast. Will the netminding be enough to get them over the hump and to nationals? We'll see if the Red Wagon will join us there. At number 4, it's another Red Wagon, Lucas. Red is a wagon was the rallying cry between both of these organizations. This go around at number 4 in the Elite. It's Coach Plummer and his Northern Cyclones.
In Northern Cyclones, they're winning games. I mean, no one is going to be able to look at them and look at a team that's lost many, right? Overall in the season, they've had less than their double-digit losses, 10-0, 1-0 in their last 11 games. They have more than doubled their goals against in their goals for category. This is a dominant team beating everybody, and they don't look like they're going to be stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, and Lucas, the big story, Michael Anstey has finally lost a game in net for the Northern Cyclones. He's 11-3-1-0 this year. He's lost 4 total games. Lucas, last season, he was 11-0. Okay, so this kid went a long way without ever losing a game between the pipes. He's at 2.55. Then he got Nick Cowles there, 10-1-1 on the season, a 1.33 goals against, 9.38 saves percentage. The Northern Cyclones always have guys who will block shots. They've always got those lunch pail to work guys. You add that style with the net minding you're getting right now between those two to Noah Malcolm with 53 points, Josh Bruno in just 25 games played with 45, Matthew Taylor, Adam Kulik, Nick Nardone. This is a title contending team and one to watch out for. At number 3, another title contending team, the Tampa Bay Juniors. They stay in this spot.
The Tampa Bay Juniors have shown no reason why we should drop them, I think, at this point, right? It's 5 straight wins for the team. It's 8-2-0-0 in their last 10. They've got a plus 102 goal differential, right? And their defense is great, but their offense is absolutely out of this world good right now. They're parking dozens and dozens and dozens of goals in the back of the net. We did talk about how the Mad Hatters have the opportunity to really make those last couple of games hurt against Tampa, but I think for Tampa, the goal is simple. You need one win. One win gets you where you want to go. Focus on that one.
And then, Lucas, the big storyline, they're going to play the Florida Junior Blades, it looks like. I mean, outside of something that I don't foresee coming, happening in these final 9 games for the Florida Junior Blades, they're going to play the Florida Junior Blades. Do not sleep on this Florida team. They have been tough down the stretch. They got off to a slow start. They're 5-5 in their last 10. Tampa's not just, you might be thinking, hey, 1 seed, we're going to be the 1 seed. It's going to be a cakewalk. There are no cakewalks in the Florida division down there. Tampa will have a tough battle, 29-7-0-1 on the year, a huge 3-game series coming up with Atlanta as well. A lot more to come from Tampa. At number 2, they stay in the number 2 spot yet again, the Potomac Patriots, Lucas. The only team that seems like they can beat Potomac is Carolina, and the only team that seems like they can beat Carolina is Potomac at times. Potomac 32-6-0, 64 points on the year, 4 points out of first place.
And they're the only team with a better offense than the Tampa Bay Juniors, statistically. 195 goals for. They will, again, barring something crazy, most certainly hit that 200 goals for mark on the season. And you look at a team whose only losses are to the Junior Canes, but then they took 2 games against the Junior Canes, right? So a split 4-game month against the Carolina Junior Canes certainly is a good sign for a Potomac team.
Yeah, and Lucas, you look at special teams. For this Potomac team at number 2, 20.9% success rate in the power play. It's second best in the Southeast Division. An 89.3% penalty kill success rate. That right there is in 4th place in the country right now. There's only a handful of teams with a better PK percentage than them. They can score it in bunches. They can stop the puck. They can do all that. And the only team, Lucas, in the Southeast Division killing penalties better than them is the number 1 team for the 16th. And now we got to get a record. They've reset. They're like Taylor Swift at the Grammys, just continuing to reset records. They're not going to be at the Super Bowl flashing up to Taylor in the box watching the game. They're going to be flashing up to the Carolina Junior Canes and Coach Brad Gaylord in the box, winning hockey games. A 91.5% success rate in the PK for Carolina this year. They have only allowed 13 power play goals. They've scored 6 shorthanded themselves. That's a crazy stat right there. The Carolina Junior Canes remain on top of the power rankings for the 16th consecutive week.
And they do it with defense. They've allowed 60 goals. They've allowed 60 goals in 38 games. That's absurd. That is less than 2 goals a game. And when you start to talk about a team that doesn't give up more than a goal a game sometimes, that makes things very, very difficult for opponents to try to beat them. A lot of times we start off games by saying, well, you knew this wasn't going to be a 1-goal game, right? You're going to have to come back and score. Against Carolina, it might be a 1-goal game. That's a very difficult team to try to play. They could be going back for a year too, which would be very interesting.
Yeah, and you just look at this roster, man, from top to bottom. It's just a fun team to watch. It's a great group. Carter Radasta leading the way with 47 points, but like Nathan Rhodes, Luke Moses, Gian Connie, like Zachary Rich, man, Jackson Furlot, Maxwell Sullivan, Colby Markham, Luke Watterson, Gregory Harder, Chris Cuddy, Nicholas Miskovsky, Liam Muscusker, who, again, looks like he owns his own maple syrup conglomerate, man. This guy's got one of the best beards in the game. Andrew Timoney, Brandon Raleigh, aptly named Raleigh, playing there in Raleigh, North Carolina, right? Like, this is just a team that doesn't stop coming after you, a net-minding group that's hosting their own podcast and questions, and Trantis and Kalina. Funky Cool Kalina, 929 saves percentage, 159. Trantis, 931, 149, putting you in a trance out there. These guys are otherworldly good in every facet of the game. The Carolina Junior Canes are the number one. They are the team to beat. The target's been on their back, and they continue to win. This team cannot be stopped. 34-4 on the season. They've been beat 4 times. Those are just blemishes. Those are just blemishes. They're scars that make you even more beautiful, Lucas. The Carolina Junior Canes at number 1. The Patriots at 2. Tampa at 3. Or Champa Bay, as some call it. The Northern Cyclones at 4, the best plumber since Mario and Tim Plummer right there in his Cyclones. The Charlotte Rush and Coach Kleck's getting it done at number 5. The Atlanta Mad Hatters at 6. The Wilkes Wagon at 7. The Eels at 8. PAL at 9. And the Metro Jets round us out at 10. Premier Power Rankings coming up next. Welcome back. Our Elite Top 10 behind us. It's time to break in to the top 25 in the Premier. And I want to start here. I want to have a conversation with all of our teams out there. Lucas and I came to this conclusion on this week's power ranking. There was about 4 teams that were solidified in their spot in our minds, and there was no debating. From 5 to 25, I will tell you right now, I could have taken the 25th team in these rankings today and made an argument for them at 5, the same way I could have made an argument for them at 45 outside of our top 25. There is just parity aplenty, which is great. There's wins, there's losses, there's teams winning games you think that they have no business winning, teams losing games you think they have no business losing. It's great for the game. It's fun to watch. But for 2 guys who have to rank y'all, it makes this impossible, Lucas, and that's where we start at 25 to 21.
It really does. And we always talk about parity, and this is what parity looks like, right? It's a bunch of teams outside maybe the top 4 or 5 that really could beat anybody on any given day. So if you want to make a case for your team, you certainly feel like you can, not just, on social media as some people do, which we always love to interact with, but you go out and you can put a little mini streak of 4 games together. All of a sudden you find yourself a few spots higher.
Yeah, and Lucas, let's get into this top 25. We start from 25 to 21 here up on the board. You've got 3 newcomers to kick things off, all newcomers to the power rankings this month. And you add on 1 team moving up a few spots and 1 team moving back a big amount in the past month, Lucas. Hershey, Toledo, Minnesota Blue Ox, Elmira Impact, Vernal Oilers. Where do you want to start?
Well, I kind of want to start with the Elmira Impact, right? I think this team has been battling all season long. Their season has been the split series story, is what we're calling them, because they'll get a win, then they'll take a loss, then they'll play an extremely close game, then they'll lose or win by a bunch. I think for me, what stands out for them is a win in November against the Toledo Cherokee, a win in November against the Minnesota Blue Ox. I know those are not really factored into this month's power rankings, but I think it stands out for me as what this team is capable of. And I think what this team is capable of is going down the stretch, playing some good teams, and getting a couple of wins.
Yeah, you got Tomacek there. You can win anytime. And, Coach, don't think I haven't seen your laughing emojis on our Facebook posts. Every time we put the power rankings out, just chuckling away. And I went, who's this with a laughing emoji making fun of our power rankings integrity? Well, guess what? It was Skip. Skip's back there, Coach's back there telling us we're not doing well enough, and we heard you. We heard you. We dove into it. We dove into numbers. You boys have beaten Toledo this year. You boys have gotten some big wins on the docket. Elmira at 24. Lucas, for me, the Minnesota Blue Ox, on paper, the resume on paper, if this was for the March Madness Committee, would not look as good as what we have seen on ice in the recent days and weeks from Coach Witta and his Blue Ox side. You're getting back to those old Blue Ox ways. They're starting to look more like a Coach Witta side.
They really are. Fast, physical, disciplined, playing with a ton of passion. Coaches in matching flannels, also a big part of the Jay Witta coaching philosophy.
Yes,
I like what I'm seeing from the Blue Ox, and what a time to get hot. Just got to make the playoffs, and then you got to win a couple of hockey games. It's really that simple, and I think that's what the Blue Ox are sticking to.
Hershey moves up to 21. Even after a tough weekend with Wilkes-Barre, you do get a benefit of the doubt and playing some tough sides. For Toledo at 22, Lucas, We were talking about where to put these guys, and the question was, which Toledo are we talking about? Are we talking about the Toledo down in Florida that was a world beater? Or are we talking about the Toledo team that can't stop losing 5-2 to Metro? It's 5-2, 5-2, 5-2 in the last 3 games, which is still crazy to me. Every game that's ever been in the Coney Cup has finished 5-2. Then they lose to Nashville as well. They're the clear-cut 3 right now in this division. Doesn't mean they can't make nationals from this 22 spot. Maybe this is the wake-up call. Maybe you put 22 up on the board if you're Coach Kenny Miller, and this turns things around. We will see out of Toledo. Let's go to the next 5, Lucas. This is 16 through 20. Kicking it off at 20, the Hudson Havoc, the Wisconsin Rapids River Kings at 18, above the Minnesota Squatch. And then Wilkes-Barre and MJDP round this one out. Let's talk about this Midwest West grouping. We couldn't separate it. Like I made the argument, if you're going to put one in one spot, they got to all be together, because I don't think you can pick a 1. You're picking 1A, 1B, 1C right now. And I think you add in the Blue Ox as 1D. Like, everybody's beating everybody out there right now, and there is no clear-cut number 1 in the Midwest West.
No, and I think that's the best way to describe this group, right? And to make things even harder, they've all got like 1 game against each opponent remaining. Just a bunch of split weekends, right? Getting a bunch of last minute games in here. I think you've got a Squatch team that's very high powered, but takes a ton of penalties.
Yeah.
Right. So you look at it from a Nationals perspective, and, that might not fly in Utica. That might get you beat. But then you look at, we've already talked about this Blue Ox side, which is great. This Havoc team, which is in first place and scores a ton of goals, but every once in a while just gets a bunch of goals scored against them. So I think it's really tough to figure out this Midwest West division.
Yeah, and then you look at the top of this one, MJDP and the Wilkes Wagon, Lucas. These 2 teams, difficult defenses. Will the offense come in the big moments?
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. And I think that might be the story of the group, maybe, right? Is that you just can't have these wild swings on the offensive side. You got to be consistently putting up 2 goals a game. And the averages will tell you that they are, but we're not talking about the averages, right? We're talking about those games where they put up 1 or get shut out or just don't rise to the occasion. And I think that this is a group that, if they can start to play more consistently in big moments, you see some upward movement.
Yeah, and I think you look at this MJDP team, what they've been able to do in showcases, they've had a lot of success. They're 26-5-0-4. They got to avoid shootouts. They're not winning shootouts, all right? They got 4 shootout losses this year. They're not going to beat you in the skills competition, but they're going to beat you in the aggregate. They're going to play tough. They're going to play physical. They're going to get net minding every single night. Royal St. Cyr is going to play like a monarch, man. He's a leader for this team, and he's got 39 points on the year. This is going to be a tough team. Metro might just be sending 3 squads to nationals, the first ever team to do that if they do so, because they're the first ever team to have 3 teams in the Premier and Elite. It would be crazy if they got it done. Can they do it? Let's go to 15 through 11 here, Lucas. We start off with the Nashville Spartans at 15, 14 the Northern Cyclones, 13 the Ontario Junior Reign, moving way up there in the Pacific, a good month for them. The Fort Wayne Spacemen at number 12, the number 1 team in the Midwest East, according to us in the power rankings, not according to the standings right now. We'll talk about them. And the Carolina Junior Canes at 11. Lucas, let's talk about this group. Where do you want to start?
I'm going to start with Fort Wayne. I think that's deserves a good explanation here. And I think Fort Wayne, their offense is better. I know that their defense struggles in comparison to MJDP, but they've got 6 straight wins. They're 8-2-0-0 in their last 10. They've got some strong ones on the card, including a win over MJDP. This is a purpose-built Fort Wayne Spaceman side. They are giant killers. They were 1 bouncing puck away from moving forward in the national tournament last season. So you look at that, you look at what they put together this year, they're a team that are going to give a lot of folks trouble.
Well, yeah, I mean, they won in the first round as a 15. Then you go to the round of 8 and you nearly beat a Richmond team for the second time in the weekend. Like, it's crazy how good they were. They're difficult to deal with. And a place I want to go to is Ontario, Lucas. This is an Ontario Junior Reign team that continue to move up the standings, continue to move up these power rankings. And Coach Bloomis, man, he's just got a slobber-knocking bunch. That's what this team is. Ontario plays just this hard-nosed hockey. You don't want to deal with them. And blessings to anybody who's got to play this team in the first round of the Pacific playoffs, because I think it's going to be Ontario versus Fresno for all the marbles. Fresno's had their number a bit, but Ontario did get one from them before the end of this last 3-game set.
Yeah, they will do that to you, right? And I think It depends on when they get that one. You talk about a 3-game series, they stole one. If they steal the first one, that makes life a lot harder for a team they're playing, right? You're going in one game down against a team like Ontario. Like you say, Dan, I don't want to play them.
Yeah, Lucas, the last one here, Nashville at 15, it almost felt like their fate was tied to Toledo's fate. Mm-hmm. As Toledo slid back in these power rankings, so did the strength of schedule for Nashville. And it kind of belittled the wins against Toledo a little bit on them, brought that down in the strength of schedule tally that I put together to help us with these power rankings. They've got great leaders. They got Ronan Keenan in that locker room with 73 points, Kyle Flynn with 74, McCall with 71, Ryan Grant putting pucks in the back in that with 51, Gus Imkin, Gino Indelicato, Mason Hartz. They've got so much talent in that locker room. The big question is, when it all comes down to it, are they going to be the Nashville we saw to kick off this season that look like world beaters, or are they going to have their ups and downs with the Metros of the world? Because the Metros of the world are who you're going to see at the national championships. They've had some trouble finding the real strength of schedule there with the travel from Nashville. You know, they haven't had the toughest route of it this season. They've had one of the cushiest schedules in the southeast corridor of the country for teams down in that region. Interesting year for this Nashville side at 15. Northern, the defending champs at 14. They need a little more out of Coach Wine. Tell me why it ain't nothing but a showcase.
Tell me why
on Super Bowl Sunday. Hudson Havoc hosting a showcase in New Hampshire by Billy Wyan.
I mean,
and we are 2 rinks apart, because that's how many rinks are in our hockey spot. At the Hudson Arena, Cyclones Arena, Bill Wyatt ain't nothing but... Okay, go ahead. What was that, Luke?
You expect me to do anything? And that's... We did get the Bob Turo doo-wop song off the ground at Hudson. Maybe this Tell Me Wyan is the next hockey-related bop from the Dan K Show.
Bob Turo. Bob Turo. Rockin' and a reelin', rockin' and a rollin'. Bob Turo.
Bob Turo.
Throwing stuff everywhere, having my coffee. We're fired up. Let's get to the top 10, Lucas. Let's go 10 through 6. How about the Atlanta Mad Hatters? I fought for my boys. Coach Casillo reached out. He said, thanks for having my boys back. He said, Lucas is just a hater. I said, I won't let him hate on you boys this month. I said, you boys are in the top 10. You're a top 10 squad. They beat Carolina head-to-head, so they jumped them from 11 up to 10. They're sitting in a 10 spot right now, the highest ranking in the Premier in the history of the Atlanta Mad Hatters. How about the work Coach Casillo is doing in year one there? Bold City at number 9. They dropped back a few after a tough couple series with Tampa and the Florida Eels. At number 8, the Utica Junior Comets, who might just be playing host at their own affair at Nationals. I do declare, Mr. Beauregard, you are my hero. Flowers for me? Of course, Utica. At number 7, the Tampa Bay Juniors. At number 6, the Florida Eels. Let's talk, Lucas. Go ahead.
You and I had the Mad Hatters at this number 10 spot when we did our separate power rankings. We were fired up. I got convinced over the last couple of weeks about this Atlanta side. At the Premier and at the Elite level, they are absolutely in Wonderland. And if you go down the rabbit hole a little bit on this Atlanta team, you find a schedule full of wins. You find games full of goals. And when you watch them in person or on Flow Hockey, you get a sense that this is a team that loves not just to run and gun, but to lay out the body when they get a chance. I love seeing Casillo with the helm. I think his personality has kind of trickled into this locker room and trickled into the play on the ice. And I feel like this is a team that's just hungry.
Lucas, Tampa and Florida are interesting. Tampa at 4th in that Florida division, but they've had their way with Bold City of late. Florida having a good series against Bold City. And this falls into kind of what happened to Nashville in the wrong direction, happens to Tampa, Florida, and Bold City in the right direction. We know how much we like that Bold City team. We know how difficult they are to deal with. Watching the commanding performances against Bold City by Tampa and the Florida Eels, that's what pulls them up so high. For Utica, Lucas, this is a team... It's one of those interesting storylines. It's one of those teams that feels like Northern last year, where Northern last year just kept going, I don't know if they're that good. I don't know if they're that good. I don't know if they're a top 10 team. I don't know if they're a top 10 team. I don't know if they're a top 10 team. And then they win the national championship, right? Utica feels like that story this year, and they'll be hosting. That place is going to be a raucous barn if they're playing a primetime game on days 1 and 2 in nationals.
100%, right? We saw the home team effect in Hudson, New Hampshire, when the Cyclones were in the Elite National Championship, right? 800 people in the building, right? If Utica were to do the same thing, I think you could see something similar. And for Bold City, one final note on them, Dan, is, you wonder if they've been figured out a little bit. They're dominating performances in the beginning of the year. You wonder if there's an element of strategy that's being played right now. It's a first-year team, right? And the mark of veteran status is being able to adapt.
Yep.
So will this fresh-faced Bold City squad be able to kind of switch around, show that veteran presence, and adapt to what's happening? We'll wait and see.
Yeah, and Lucas, this Utica side, on the other hand, Jake Hall leading the way, a balanced scorer. I talked about balance in scoring, 26 and 26 for 52 points. You'll love to see a guy who can dish it out the same way he can score it himself. You got Joshua Gregor up there with 40 points. And how about Issa Murakami, 36 points in 27 games played? And this guy is a good player. I'll tell you, Murakami is a difference maker, a 2004 birth year. This Utica team is the real deal. Let's get to the top 5. Lucas, this is the highest ranking for a Pacific team ever in the Dan K Show Power Rankings. The Fresno Monsters at number 5 this month.
Fresno is a scary team. They will put 5 goals on you before the opening puck even drops. They've got Noak Persson, who can't stop scoring even if he tried. They've got a fast team that went toe-to-toe with the Metro Jets. They've got a heavy hitting squad that can knock anyone out of a building. And they've got a presence that reminds me of Team Iceland from the Mighty Ducks. Yeah. All of that together means that they are an imposing presence and a talented team with extremely competent coaching.
Fresno has struggled for the last couple of years since joining the USPHL with translating the game over to nationals competition.
Correct.
They've never lacked the talent. Right? They've never lacked the talent at all. But when you get to a nationals tournament in the USPHL, it's a 6-day long event to win a national championship and raise the title, right? And raise the trophy. And what's tended to happen is that open ice closes down on you a bit, and they haven't been able to get into that versatile game, right? Play the full 200 feet. They've struggled in the close battles, but they've played well at nationals every time. This roster, watching what they put on, I know they lost the Metro. I know they didn't win the Metro game. I know it wasn't a 1-goal game. I know Metro outshot them. But what they did against Metro without Noak Persson, without the clear-cut number 1 in the USPHL Premier scoring sheet, without Persson, what they did against Metro was play that Nationals brand of hockey that I've never seen them have to play. I think that little period of time at the Vegas showcase, as I'm getting choked up about it, I think at that little period of time, I think that changed this Fresno team, Lucas, and I think they're ready for a big run at the national tournament this year. Watch out for Fresno at number 5. This team is a monster.
I'd agree with that, right? And that was why that Fresno Metro game was the game circled on that showcase schedule. It was the litmus test. Is Fresno ready? I'd say so.
Yeah, if you left it up to Benaldi, he would have just changed the schedule so we would have gotten a different game because he would have picked a better one for us. But let's not get into that. Dan K picks his own games. Don't try to fix it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to number 4, Lucas. Number 4. Don't smile like that. Potomac Patriots, Lucas. Go ahead.
Potomac Patriots, you want to talk about getting figured out. And you've noticed that, with the top 5, we can get a little bit more, not quite Stephen A. Smith because, we're not screaming and yelling at the people, but it's a little bit more harsh on them. And I think Potomac would be harsh on themselves as well, as harsh as you can be for a number 4 squad. They're going to have to make some adjustments as well. I mean, they were the number 1 team for a large portion of the season. They've been just slipping back a little bit each month a little bit. And I think it's just because you're losing a few games here. Now, the remaining schedule is not necessarily going to be the most difficult they possibly could be playing. But I think for this Potomac side, they're going to have to find a second gear. They're going to have to find something else in the bag right now because they're giving up just a few too many goals, and I think that's what's going on right now, Dan. Their defense just isn't locking in as much as it used to.
They play a really open game. And the way that teams are figuring out how to stop them is is easier said than done. That's why they're not losing a lot. But the teams with the dogs, the horses that can kind of stay in the race, they're figuring out to keep the game wide. They're figuring out to make it tough to carry the puck over the blue line. There's going to have to be a dump and chase element added into this Potomac attack to get things done come playoff time, come Nationals time. It was the problem they dealt with last season. They will deal with it again this postseason. Will the Marshanock twins, the Super Marshanoks, will they be enough to get the job done and get Potomac over that hill and to their first USPHL national tournament under this new rebuild? I love what Potomac's doing at number 4. Number 3, Lucas, the Charlotte Rush. They've had Potomac's number in the recent going.
And that's why they sit here, right? They beat Potomac twice in the previous month. Their only losses to Toledo and then Metro in a shootout, which, of course, doesn't really count all that much, does it? But I think for Charlotte, what they're looking at is the version of Potomac with better defense, right? They've given up 20 less goals on the season, which spread over 37 games is, not a ton, but where it manifests is sometimes those close games, not as close. Those opening goals, not really happening. 8-1-0-1 in their last 10 as well. For Charlotte, I just am a little bit more confident in that defensive ability. But the one thing about Nationals, Dan, is sometimes a bounce can decide it.
Yeah, and you got Jarrett Weissert leading the way with 52 points. Easton Stafford's great. Carson Galen. How about Peter Keese? Just going to the old Peter's going to have a lot to deal with, okay? He's going to Albertus Magnus College, and he's going to get to see the Dan K statue in the middle of campus that I illegally placed on campus myself. The Dan K cafeteria and fun emporium, which is on campus as well. The Dan K, the Dan K of Fame. We don't have a Hall of Fame at Albertus. It's just pictures of me everywhere, and they just kind of relish in the fact that I went to school there.
Is it just one picture that you have to walk by to get to class? That's why it's the Walk of Fame?
I mean, 100%. I mean, as the guy transferred in immediate captain status. I mean, to take over a locker room the way I did, I don't think anybody's ever seen it. I don't think anybody's ever seen anything like it. But just exciting stuff, exciting time. But no, in all seriousness, congratulations to Peter Keese. It is a great commitment. It's a school I know I hold near and dear to my heart. I love everything that I got out of Albertus Magnus College. I love everything that I got to be when I was a Falcon there. Congratulations to Peter Keese. That's a great commitment. Jack Day, have a day all season long at the blue line. This kid's stellar. Let's go to number 2, Lucas. They stay right here at number 2. They've won 24 games in a row, and I'm telling you right now, I'm making this prediction. I think they're going to finish the season undefeated. I think they will not lose before they go to Nationals. I think they're going to show up at Nationals on it would be a 34-game win streak at that point.
Yeah, I mean, they're 10-0 in their last 10. They're 15-0 in their last 15. They're 20-0 in their last 20. Oh, and they're 24-0 in their last 24. I mean, it's to a point of almost absurdity. We talked about a team hitting the 200 goal for mark in the Elite. There's a chance the Connecticut Junior Rangers legitimately get to 300 goals in a season, which
Not
would
a
be
chance. It's happened.
Which would be one of the most absurd things to ever happen, I think, in the USPHL Premier. There's just not even another comparable team, I think, on the offensive side right now.
Lucas, they have 6 games left, okay? They're scoring 28 goals. They average 27 goals a game, I think, at this point. So they're getting there. They're getting to 300. You're not telling me a Mike Stanaway-led side is not going to look at 272 in the goals for column right now and not get the 300 before the end of the regular season. They're not losing again. They're going to win the next 6. They're going to be 30-0 in their last 30 games heading into the postseason. They've won 24 straight. They will have won 30 straight. They need at least 2 series. Let me look. Let's look at this situation here, Lucas.
Yeah, they're scoring about 7 goals a game, which would mean that they would get to that 300 goal mark.
That's crazy. That is the crazy part right there. Then we want to look at, let's see. What were we looking at in this? Yeah, we want to look at the standings. Let's Dan K live on the air here. So, yeah, you're going to get all 8 teams are going to make the playoffs. So you're going to have to win 1v8, right? So I think they're going to win those 2. So now that's 32 consecutive wins for Connecticut. Then they're going to play the winner of the lowest seed to advance. Let's say it's the 4 seed. Let's say all the top seeds win. That one, I think they win as well, and I think they sweep. I think they'll be 34-0 when they enter Nationals. 34-0 in the last 34 games.
Can you win too much before getting to the national tournament? I guess we're going to find out.
You can't. This is going to be a team that is going to be in the history books of the USPHL forever with the way their season's gone. And they would be the number one team in the country any other year if it wasn't for the fact that they're not the only team on a 24-game point streak. How about the Metro Jets, who are 23-0-0-1 in their last 24 games? They are 11-0-0-1 at showcases, and they are about to be the only team to attend 4 showcases in a season ever in the USPHL. 4 different showcases around the country. They went to Vegas. They had one at home in Detroit. They went to Tampa, Florida, and now they're going to go to Foxborough. Sorry, they're going to go to Hudson. They're going to go to Hudson, New Hampshire, and go to the Cyclone Showcase this weekend. Metro's frequent flyer miles are through the roof at 33-2-1-1.
I mean, look, 23-0-0-1, it just absolutely horrendous, right? When you compare it to the Connecticut Junior Rangers last 24, it's inexcusable. No, I mean, all joking aside, this Metro team, as much as we talked about how scary Fresno was, this Metro side is probably the best Metro team that we've seen up to this point.
What I will tell you, though, Lucas, you were worried about, will Connecticut get the 300? The next goal for Metro is their 300.
Yep.
They're getting the 300 as well. Again, what we talked about, Connecticut would be the greatest performance in the history of the USPHL Premier if it wasn't for the Metro Jets also existing this year. They are only a 16.4% success rate in the power play. They have almost 300 goals. They are a bad power play unit.
Yeah.
They do poorly on the power play, and they've scored 300 goals. That's just stupid, Lucas. They're a good penalty kill team. They're not otherworldly, and I think that's going to be the one worry I have with this Metro team. Mm-hmm. Special teams, the skills competitions, those games where it's got to open up. Can they show up? They're built for playoff hockey. They're built for nationals hockey. But are they going to score those important goals in that 1-0 slugfest that's going to happen at nationals?
Well, and the reason why it's so important is because if your power play, what we saw from Potomac and through most of the season with that absolutely elite level power play, still incredibly good on their part, it makes you afraid to take penalties. When you're afraid to take penalties, you're afraid to hit. You're afraid to play tough. You're afraid to go dive in the corners for the puck. But if you're facing off a team that you're willing to gamble on that power play, you can play them a little tougher. You can take 3, 4, 5 penalties at nationals, normally a death sentence, but in this case, maybe not so much. So does Metro have an Achilles heel? I don't know if this would sink their chances, but I certainly think it will lead to, if they get to that last 4-team grouping, lead to some interesting strategy against the Metro Jets.
All right, Lucas, quick game show to close things out here. At the end of the power rankings, Metro Jets back at number 1. Best power play unit in the Premier. Who is it? Go.
On the spot, I would say it's either Connecticut or Potomac.
Connecticut, correct. 31.7% success rate on the power play this year. Best penalty kill in the league, Lucas, this season. Go.
Did we put them in the top 25?
They're in the top 25, and I will tell you they are a 97.1% success rate on the penalty kill. It would be the greatest in the history of the Premier.
Metro Jets.
Metro Jets.
Development program.
97.1% success rate. They have allowed 3 power play goals. They have allowed 3 power play goals. Lucas, shorthanded goals scored in the league. Who has scored the most? Shorthanded goals, 4.
I'm going with the Stanaway effect. Connecticut Junior Rangers.
And he is tied with my close personal friends in the Boudreau family and the Hershey Cubs, who have 15 shorthanded goals for their own. Crazy start for them. How about the Jersey Hitmen with 14 shorthanded goals as well? Last question for you. Okay, ready? Let's do this. Overtime wins. Who has the most overtime victories in the USPHL Premier with 6? I will tell you, you've already answered this team at least once.
I would probably have to go with the Connecticut Junior Rangers again.
The Connecticut Junior Rangers is correct with 6 overtime wins this season.
I'll tell you what, for being put on the spot, those were some pretty good answers.
You're doing pretty well. Shootout wins. The Fort Wayne Spacemen tied with PAL with 3 shootout wins this year. Gatineau has 3 wins. The Universelle, as we say in Gatineau, Lucas,
Le bon temps roulé.
and we hope you let the good times roll as well in USPHL Nation. We love it. We love it, man. We love everyone around the country watching us. When Dan K's on the mic, it's always hockey night. Your top 25. Tune in to Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, anywhere you get your info at @the_Dan K Show. Go to dankshow.com today and reach out to us there with your thoughts on this month's power rankings. We'll see you in 2 weeks with another one.
Pretty good for getting put on the spot. Almost like the guy covers the league. Almost like it's his job to know these things.
That was great.